Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. So now today we are going to solve another some questions for the Python programming interviews. The questions that are frequently asked in the interviews for the Python programming that we are going to solve today. Right, so we just not waste too much of time in the discussion right here. So let's move on to the questions right here. So the very first question that we are going to say is that what does an object do? Now this object is actually the part of the classes and objects. OOPS concept, right? Remember that we had already studied about the OOPS concept in the Python programming language. So from that part of this particular thing, it is asking that in that classes and objects, what does the object do? Right, let's write out the answer for this particular question that it returns. Okay, it returns a featureless, a feature, it returns a featureless object that is, it returns a featureless object that is a base for all classes, for all. Okay, so I would just write here as a class. It returns a featureless object that's a base for all classes. Also, it does not, take any parameters. Take any parameters. Oh, I would just write that thing right here. Fine. Okay, so what does an object actually do? So it returns a featureless object that is a base for all the classes. Also, it does not take any of the parameters, right? This is what about the object which we have in the classes and objects. Now, let's say I just make out a class. So is that any value of making that class without an object? No, it isn't, right? So basically the objects act as a base for all the classes. So if you haven't set up the base, then how you can just go ahead with the other things, right? So objects are such kind of things for the classes, right? Hope you got my point regarding that. What does an object do? Fine. Fine. Now, next question that we are going to say is how do you do data abstraction in Python? So, data abstraction is like actually a process which takes place in the Python programming language, right? Either other languages also it is actually acted upon, right? So, let's see that how do we just do out the data abstraction in Python? So first of all, let's see that what do we mean by data abstraction, because if I'm just going to explain the process for doing out something, so before that I just even should know that what is data abstraction, and even I just should explain that particular thing, right? Okay, so data abstraction is providing, I would just write here only providing only the required only the required details and and hiding and hiding the implementation. Okay, so and hiding the implementation from the and I would just write here from the world. Okay, so it can be achieved in, okay, let me just come down. So it can be achieved in Python. It can be achieved in Python by using interfaces and abstract classes. So here goes the classes. Fine. Okay, so data abstraction is providing only the required details and hiding the implementation from the world. It can be achieved in Python by using interfaces and the abstract classes. So my question was that how do we just do data abstraction in Python? So for this particular question, first of all, I explained about that what do we first of all actually meant by data abstraction, right? That I just told about. After that, I just moved on that okay, what is the like basically how we can just do the data abstraction in Python. So this is the correct way for answering any question, any of the theoretical questions asked to you for any particular topic in the interviews, right? If a person is asking that how data abstraction, how do you do it? how do you do the data abstraction? So it's not the thing that you just need to explain that only. First of all, you need to tell that what is data abstraction. Then you need to give out the answer for that, how it is actually done. Fine. Hope you just got the idea. Fine. Now the next question that we are going to see is, does Python support multiple inheritance? The answer for this you all must be knowing that yes, Python supports some multiple inheritance, right? And after that we can just tell that what do we actually meant by multiple inheritance. Let's write out the answer for this particular question. So I would just write here that multiple inheritance. First of all, I'll be explaining out the meaning, that what we just meant from this multiple inheritance. Okay. So the multiple inheritance means, I would just write here, it means that multiple inheritance means that a class can be derived from more than one parent class. Okay, so this is what we just meant by multiple inheritance, that it means that a class can be derived from more than one parent classes. And next answer, that Python does support multiple inheritance. So Python does support the multiple, and here goes the inheritance like this right here. Okay, so this is how we will be answering out this particular question, as I mentioned in the above one also, and right now as well I am repeating out that multiple inheritance. Let's say I am just asked out this question, that does Python support multiple inheritance. So in this, my job is to first of all explain that what do we mean by multiple inheritance. Okay, and after that we just need to give the answer of this question, that does Python support multiple inheritance. So yes, Python does support some multiple inheritance, right? Hope you just got the idea for this particular question as well. Now let's come down to the next question. Fine. Now next question is basically explain inheritance in Python with an example. Right now we just need to explain about the inheritance in Python with an example. So what I'll be just doing here is that first of all I'll be explaining that what do we meant from inheritance, giving a short example for that, and after that I'll be telling out the different types of inheritance which we have in the Python programming language. Right, so this is the procedure how I will be answering out this particular question. So let's get started. I would just start writing here that inheritance allows one class to gain all the members. Okay, from members what do I mean? From members I mean all the attributes and the methods whatever we are having. Okay, so inheritance allows one class to gain all the members of another class, right? This is what we just do in inheritance. So the properties, the attributes, the methods, the functions of one class are actually inherited into the other class, right? Fine. So after I put out a dot, and I would just write here inheritance. Right here. So inheritance provides. Now what's the feature that why we just choose this out? So the inheritance provides the code reusability. Code, I would just write here reusability. Code reusability, BILITY. So inheritance provides the code reusability. After that, it makes it easier to create. Okay, just one second, let me come down a little bit. So inheritance provides code reusability, makes it easier to create and maintain the application. Right? This is the these are the two reasons, advantages that why we just use the inheritance. Okay, one more important thing to write down here. So the class from which the class from which we are inheriting. Okay, so inheriting, fine here. So the class from which we are inheriting, right, is called the superclass. Okay, it's called the superclass, and I would just write here the super class. So the class which is with which so the class from which we are inheriting is called a superclass. Okay, and and the class and the class that and the class that is I would just write here inherited, that is inherited, is called a derived, is called derived slash child class. So this is all the important information which I can tell about the inheritance. That okay, just 1 second. uh, right here for 1 second, just let me take out the cursor from here. Fine. So inheritance allows one class to gain all the members of another class. Inheritance provides the code reusability, makes it easier to create and maintain the application. The class from which we are inheriting is called superclass, and the class that is inherited is called the derived slash child class, right? Now what are the different types of inheritance which we have in this Python programming? Okay, just 1 second, let me take out some color. Just 1 second. This one. Fine. Now what are the types of inheritance that we are having? First one is basically the single inheritance. That is basically what we meant from it. So when a derived class acquires, so I will just repeat the definition, I will just not write that out. Okay, so just listen to me very much carefully. So when a derived class acquires the members of a single superclass, so derived class and the superclass definition I had already told you, right? So when one class properties are inherited into the second class, that is in simple language I could just say that when one class properties are inherited into second class, that is called a single inheritance, fine. And if it is talk in the terms of derived and the superclass, so that when a derived class acquires the members of a single superclass, single, remember here, okay. Second we are having here as multi-level. So multi-level inheritance. So I would just write here inheritance. Okay. PANC. Fine. Now let's see that what is multi-level inheritance. So a derived class is inherited from the base class. Okay. And which are okay. Let's say a derived class is D1, that is inherited from a base class, that is B1. Okay. And D2 is another derived class which is inherited from the base class, that is B2. So this is what we call as multi-level inheritance. Okay, when a derived class D1 is inherited from a base class B1 and D2 are inherited from base 2. This is what we just called as multi-level inheritance. Let's move towards the multiple inheritance. So here we next come as multiple inheritance. Right here, okay. Now what we just meant from multiple inheritance, so in the multiple inheritance a derived class is inherited from more than one base class. Okay, so in multiple inheritance a derived class is inherited from more than one base class. Okay, and the last one which we are having, that is the number 4, and that is actually my hierarchical inheritance. So HIERARI, hierarchical, and here goes the inheritance. Okay, now let's see that what is the hierarchical inheritance. So when one base class is inherited by any number of child classes. Okay, when one base class is inherited by any number of child classes, that is actually called as hierarchical inheritance, right? Hope it is got the proper answer of this the above question which we have seen right here. Now my last question that we'll be seeing is that what are Python libraries? Name a few of them, right? Now I'll be just naming a few of the Python libraries. Fine. So let's see that what we just meant out from here. So I would just start writing out the answer for this particular question, that Python libraries are RARIES. Okay. So the Python libraries are a collection, Python libraries are a collection of Python packages Python packages. Python libraries are a collection of Python packages So some of them which are actually used, I will some of them are. Now I would just name here as, let's say, so first one is the NumPy, and let's say another one is the pandas, let's say third one is the we just matplotlib, many more I would just put here as etc, right? So these are the Python libraries which are, some of them I have mentioned, NumPy, pandas, matplotlib, etc, right? So these are actually the collection of Python packages. Let me just now go above and revise all of the questions that we had seen right here. So the first one is, what does an object do? Fine. Second one was that, how do you do data abstraction Python? Third one was, does Python support multiple inheritance? Fourth one was, explain inheritance in Python with an example. And the last and the fifth one was, what are Python libraries? Name a few of them. Right, so hope you just got all the answers in a very detailed way and a proper way that how to answer all these types of questions. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.